guys, we're going to talk about riding horses today. I asked for suggestions on what to make a YouTube video about, and got all the typical like what I ate in a day requests for that. There's so many channels that do that though. Like you can just look at them. I'll do one eventually, but I'm just so hesitant to always do that because I don't know. I just feel nervous about people modeling what they eat after exactly what I eat, because what I eat is right for my body, my caloric intake and stuff is appropriate for my level of activity and my age. And I just get a little nervous when people want to emulate exactly what someone else does. And I know that's not exactly the intention here, but it does seem to go that way a lot. And especially with everything going on lately, with like vegans leaving, well, not vegans, but people leaving veganism and stuff. And, you know, I just, a little bit of a touchy thing. And also I just, as I've told you guys before, I can't fucking remember to like film everything I eat. It's just weird. Anyway, so we're going to talk about riding horses. You guys, I've had like 1 or 2 people ask me to make a video on this, not a lot of requests for it. But you guys may have seen on my Instagram story, since I moved to Malibu, my daughter Hayes has been spending time with horses. And I know that a lot of vegans feel that riding horses is not a vegan activity or it's unethical. And, I definitely understand that viewpoint. First, I'd like to say that I don't ride horses. I don't want to ride horses. I love horses, but I don't really have any desire to get on them and ride around. But my daughter loves horses, and she has been begging to ride horses for years. And it's something that we explored really briefly in Miami. The thing about Miami is that all of the places that you can do this sort of thing at are really far away. And it's also very formal there. A lot of, you know, dressage, and everybody's doing show, and it's horses riding around in a rink. And the couple different places that we went to, they just didn't seem like happy places. The horses were in small stalls, and Hayes said she felt like the horses didn't want to ride around in circles in the rink. Like they would try to leave the rink every time they got to the gate. So she didn't like it, and I didn't like it either. So we didn't pursue it. And then when we got to Malibu is like a really kind of magical place where everybody has horses and they're all over the place. So she really wanted to do it. So I found a place for her here, and I just have a hard time believing that anyone who came to this place and saw what went on there, I have a really hard time believing that anyone would take issue with what was going on there. But I'll just tell you a little bit about my daughter's specific situation. She doesn't have a desire to do jumping or showing or dressage where it's just kind of like an unnatural sort of movement for the horse, I guess. She doesn't have any desire to do that or any aspirations. She just really wanted to kind of have a pet horse, like to spend time with horses because she loves them. And so we found this really amazing place that is gorgeous, and it's in Malibu, and from the rink you can see like the ocean. The temperature is really beautiful. The horses are kept in big stalls. They're in a really loving environment, and a lot of the horses are rescues. So her horse that she spends time with, we've leased a horse for her. And leasing a horse is different than buying. It's kind of like an intermediate stage where you are responsible for things. So she spends about 4 or 5 days a week with the horse. His name is Zeus. He is a rescue. He was rescued by the owner of the place. She originally saw him when they were evacuating Malibu for the fires. She came across him and she wanted to take him, but she ended up not taking him at the time because he is slightly pigeon-toed, and that's, I guess, an undesirable trait in a horse. I don't know too much about it. So if you guys, probably a lot of you know more about horses than I do. I actually had a lot of vegans ask me to talk about this because they're vegan and they do ride horses and they've ridden horses their whole life, but they still consider themselves vegan. So That's what we're talking about. So if you guys know more about this sort of thing in pigeon-toed horses, feel free to chime in the comments, because I don't really know. But she didn't get him at the time because he was pigeon-toed, but then something about him, he's very sweet, very timid, something about him stuck with her, and so she ended up going back and rescuing him. And he originally came from a feedlot in Texas, from my understanding, and so most of the horses that are on these feedlots are auctioned off in Canada and made into cat food. That was going to be Zeus's destiny, most likely, until this lovely woman came and rescued him and brought him in. Even though he was pigeon-toed, he's super sweet and gentle. He's been ridden, he's rideable, and my daughter rides him, and but he doesn't canter or anything like that. He's not doing that yet. And he's nervous about like stepping over certain things, but he's also very gentle, especially when he has her on him. So she spends time with him. She doesn't always ride him, like when she goes in the beginning, because she's just learning to ride. She would go and hand walk him every day and bring him apples, and she braids his hair, and she spends hours grooming him and bonding with him, and really just spending time developing a connection with him. And it's, I mean, it's really just heartbreakingly a beautiful thing to see a little girl have a connection with an animal like that. I mean, it's almost like she's in love with him. It's like the first thing that she thinks about in the morning when she gets up. That's the last thing she talks about at night before she goes to sleep, is Zeus, and what can she bring for him, and how can she help him get over this. And right now he gets sponge baths because they've never given him a bath, and he's a little timid. Like I said, they're not sure how he's going to respond, so she gives him sponge baths. He is absolutely spoiled and loved and cared for, and I just can't imagine anyone that thinks that this is a negative thing. So if you don't know, if you know less about horses than I do, you might not know that you can't just rescue a horse and like turn it loose or just let it live at a farm or whatever. They do need to be exercised. They do need to be, a lot of horses do need to be ridden. It's not really in their nature to run around and exercise themselves. So they do need to have that. And let me just tell you, I'm fully against horse racing. I am fully against horse breeding. I don't agree with any of that. I don't believe that we should breed animals to be in existence to serve us. I don't believe in that. But much like dogs that are domesticated, these horses are domesticated. And I don't really see a solution in any other way. You can't just born free, just live free. Like, I don't know. There's some vegans that don't think that dog ownership is vegan. And or they don't think that training a dog is vegan, or, giving a dog a job is vegan. And I disagree with all of that. I don't think that we should be putting dogs in dangerous jobs. I don't really agree with that. But also to train a dog to be a seeing eye dog, or, a therapy dog, I think that's a wonderful thing. And if you've spent time with dogs, or you know a lot about dogs, you know that the vast majority of them really enjoy that sort of connection with a human being. They really enjoy the training process with a human being. Both of my dogs really love the training process. I've had a dog in the past, Love. She was an Alaskan Malamute, very wolfy. She did not enjoy that training process. She was close with us, but she didn't enjoy that. So we never did it with her because it wasn't her jam. So I think that while a lot of these, I get where the concern is with riding horses. I get it. I'm not oblivious to that. I'm fully aware. You don't need to send me any links to any videos. I have seen them all. Trust me. So you don't need to send me anything like that. I think it's, for me personally, the horse riding thing is on a case-by-case basis. I've seen situations where it doesn't sit right with me, and I've seen situations that are completely magical and beautiful, and I do support them. And it also comes down to, like, where do you draw the line for this? Like, dogs, we rescue dogs, and dogs are being bred, and, much to our dismay, even though we don't agree that dogs are being bred, and, they're overpopulated, and we're having to euthanize them and all of these things, so you can't just be like, oh, well, let's just rescue them and turn them loose. Or I don't really know what you want to happen I don't really know what those vegans really think that the solution is, and I'm super open to hearing it. I don't know everything. I'm just sharing with you guys my experience with it. So the same thing with horses, you know, do you let these horses on feedlots just go to slaughter? Or, you know, I mean, he was going to die. This horse now has a really beautiful life, and he's bonded with a little girl that just loves him more than anything and is just concerned about his well-being from, you know, morning till night. It's just, I don't really see the harm in that. I don't see the harm in that. I think it's really amazing and great, and it's definitely going to keep my daughter out of trouble. You know, and I think it's a fine line. I definitely am not of the mindset, obviously, of some of these more militant vegans. No hate to if you're a militant vegan. I've got nothing but love for you. But I just don't see the usefulness in tearing down other vegans for doing things. And I say this as someone who's not been torn down for this. I've had a couple of people be like, oh, do you think it's ethical to ride horses? Just genuinely interested in your thoughts on this. I haven't had anyone come and attack me because my daughter's riding a horse. I have not had that happen. So I'm not making this video as in a defensive manner. I'm just sharing my experience. I do think horse riding can be a bit of a gray area for sure. But you know, where do you draw the line? Listen, is it a totally vegan activity? No, it's not. There's saddles that are made of leather. My daughter has riding shoes that are made of leather. She actually inherited these riding shoes from, so when you go to these places, there's oftentimes like they have like tons of helmets and like a room full of riding boots, and you just kind of go and pick a pair, and that's your pair until they don't fit you anymore. Then you put them back into the rotation, you get a bigger pair, and you can buy your own or whatever. So we've kind of just done this recycled thing. She bought herself, my daughter bought herself a pair of leather riding boots a while ago because I didn't want to buy them because I wasn't comfortable buying leather, but she bought them herself, and then she outgrew them, and then she donated them to the place so somebody else will wear them. So there is a bit of that. Is it vegan? No, that's not vegan. But also neither is my son. Is my son playing football not vegan now because the ball's made of leather? He played baseball for a stint, and I had to purchase him a leather baseball mitt. You know, I don't know where you draw the line. We try to do our very best, and it's been ages since I've purchased anything leather or wool or anything like that for myself or my home. But there are these instances where I really don't know what the answer is. Am I like, no, you can't play this sport because you have to buy a leather shoe, or, you know, there's a ball that's played with that has some leather on it. Like, I don't know. Where do you draw the line? If you're super militant vegan and you don't agree with riding horses, do you not watch movies or TV shows that have horse riding in it? I mean, I fucking love Game of Thrones, and they are riding the shit out of some fucking horses in that show. Am I going to not watch that show because I have questions about, you know, the horse ride? I don't know. Like, I just don't know. Like, my point is that we can get really super crazy with this stuff, or we can deal with it how I'm dealing with it, which is on a case-by-case basis. And I don't know. It's an interesting discussion. What do you guys think? I'm curious to hear from both sides. I'm curious to hear from people that think, you know, I'm a horrible person because I'm supporting my daughter and doing something that is not really considered 100% vegan. And I'm curious to hear from people that consider themselves longtime vegans that have been riding horses for a lifetime. Because I know there's a lot of you on here. I have heard from a lot of you guys that do ride horses. So feel free to comment. I know there's a lot of more really kind of militant vegans on YouTube than there is on Instagram. Instagram tends to be a little bit more middle or a little bit more moderate, and YouTube tends to be like really hardcore vegan. So I'm sure I'm going to hear from you guys. You know, be kind in the comments. You don't need to rip me a new asshole. You don't need to educate me, because I really do know. I do know the whole thing. I know about the bit in their mouth and all that. I know, I've seen all the stuff. So there's no need to reiterate that. Yeah, some of the horses, I will say that some of the horses at this place that she goes to, I noticed didn't have bits, and I said, well, why don't they have bits in the mouth? And my daughter says, oh, they don't like the bits, so they don't wear one. And I was like, oh, all right, you know, okay, that's cool. So again, my daughter's loving spending time with horses. She's doing trail rides and exercising him and, you know, whatever. So I'm going to support her in doing that, because I think it's a positive thing for her. And I know it's a positive thing for this horse. He's really kind of come out of his shell since she's been spending time with him. And yeah, I'll try to add in a few pictures of him after this. All right, guys, I'll see you soon. Mwah.